Coach, wanted to ask you first about Dominic Johnson. How did he look yesterday, his first day without Green on?
I thought he looked good, Trey. I still think it's up in the air whether we'll play him or not this week, but I think he certainly has improved over the last week and a half. Obviously, we have today to look at him as well. We'll just have to see how he feels, and he looked to me like he's ready to go, but we'll have to kind of see how he feels about it before we decide. I think we still have 2 pretty good days that he can build some confidence and see if he's ready to play or not. To be honest with you, right now it's kind of up to him.
Mm-hmm. And I noticed in the spring you'd started Corey Johnson out at cornerback, and then you moved him over to middle safety. And I remember you saying we felt like we just needed some more guys who knew how to play middle safety. How beneficial was that time? How much work did he get, first of all, at middle safety in the spring, and how beneficial has that been carrying over to now?
Well, I'm going to guess here, but I think it's a pretty educated guess. I think he had about half the spring at safety, and then we moved him over to corner. Again, I think COVID taught us a lot about interchanging defensive backs, offensive linemen, things of that nature to be prepared if you had some injuries. And so certainly we're pleased that we did that. We know he's a good player. So we're looking forward to, if he's the guy back there, then we're looking forward to seeing him play. I think he'll play well.
Thanks, Coach.
Coach? Yeah, Coach, on the teleconference today, I think you said something like, from week 1 to week 2, you put a lot of emphasis on maybe improving your team. I'm curious if there's any maybe points of emphasis this week that you're really focusing on, yourselves, and how do you feel like y'all have progressed in those areas?
Well, I think it's a little bit of pre-snap, right motions, right reads, right communication. I'm talking about on both sides of the ball, not necessarily the motion, but reading keys, communication off of that, trying to win the game on what we know mentally, trying to see the game played before the snap of the ball on both sides of the ball, straining, finishing blocks better, being better tacklers. Go back and we can learn some things from fundamentals, throw and catch the ball better, things of that nature. We don't have a problem of playing hard or playing physical. Didn't have many loafs at all in the game. It's just you just want to be a little bit crisper, and I think you'll try to get that each and every week. But once you actually see yourself in that particular season on tape, I think you can learn a lot from that, both as a coaching staff and players. And I think that, after the game, it felt like it didn't feel like we had lost the game, but it certainly didn't feel like a top 25 win. And I think that's where you want your program. But at the same time, you'd like to celebrate wins as well. I had a good talk with them about that after the game. But I think all those things, I think we have a mature team that's now won several games, and I think they understand that we have a lot of work to do. So we certainly are respectful of South Carolina and watching video and trying to see what they do and all those things. But we have a lot of work to do, like I explained, on ourselves.
And then I know Simeon Blair seems like he's kind of become more of a vocal guy back there. If you don't have Catalan, how much of a help is it to have a guy like Blair still back there at safety?
Well, I think it's huge. He's played a lot of games, and he, to be honest with you, he was kind of the vocal guy of the safeties. Cat certainly was vocal as well, but he's embraced that role. We need him to be that guy. He's very smart and plays extremely hard. And so I've been real pleased with his performance over the last 2 days as well. So I think it's a big deal, to answer your question.
Bob?
Hey, Sam, after looking at the game tape and especially, and wondering your evaluation of how Jaden Hazelwood played, and especially that touchdown catch where you see like three defenders down like, bowling pins or whatever, just wonder what you thought of his game and what your expectations are for him moving forward.
Again, I think you'd probably have to ask him, Bob, how he feels, but I'm saying that he's having fun. Seems to be playing much faster now than he was in the spring. He was a very good blocker on Saturday. Certainly the little quick pitch that we ran to him, the sweep around the edge, was a big play in the game. You can tell KJ believes in him because he kind of threw it up, in a crowd, and it was a great pass. Don't get me wrong. And only he could catch it, but KJ has great confidence in him, and he went and got it. So I anticipate him just getting better and better as his confidence and his knowledge of exactly where to be at what time on the field increases. I think he's going to have a really, really good year, as I felt like he played a good game, both blocking, running, and receiving on Saturday.
And then Jordan Dominick's not often, I don't think, that a guy plays off the bench and gets an SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week award, or whatever award they might be giving out. How cool do you think that was? And do you see him maybe getting more snaps as things go forward?
I don't know where his snaps. I would assume that he'll increase some. We feel very good about our 4 defensive ends that are playing on a regular basis. But I don't know if he'll increase his reps or not. It should go up a little bit, but it is really cool that, I showed in a team meeting where he was on the group of 4 that we weren't really happy with the effort on the play. And from that day on, he's changed the way that he practiced. And it wasn't like it was a week. It might've been day 2 into fall camp. And I go, hey, we can't do this. We can't win this way. And he started that day. He started practicing extremely hard, and he's gotten a lot better from it. And I'm really, really pleased he's on the team, and really pleased he had some success on Saturday.
Well, what'd you think about him getting that SEC award? His first game ever for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that cool? That's neat, for him, and I'm sure that will give him added confidence as well.
Thanks.
Scotty.
Sam, I wanted to ask you about Terry Hampton. He flashed for you a couple of times last weekend. Where do you think he's developed maybe the most since he got to you guys?
To be honest with you, I think it's just his leg is healed. I mean, from when he first got here, he wasn't cleared with his injury, and his quickness has certainly increased. He's always been really, really strong, and he did a nice job this summer as well with that. But knowledge, he's better with his hands. He gets good knockback, and he plays extremely hard. I mean, he's a hard guy to block, I think, and or at least he's hard for us to block. And looked like he certainly made some plays against Cincinnati. And I think he was a great get out of the transfer portal, and wonderful kid as well. And he's one of our top interior guys. He's as good as any of them that we have up there.
My second thing was, I think Pooh played the most snaps at your linebacker spot beyond your starters. What inspired y'all's confidence in him to maybe put him out there as that first guy beyond your starters?
Yeah. He's been here longer. So we've seen him more, able to get a little more trust in him because we've seen him more. But I really like him. I think he's going to be a really good linebacker. And I thought 17, we might want to play him a little bit more than that plays. But as it goes on through the season, we're going to need him more and more, and we'll be able to do that. But just the fact that we've seen him do it in practice, he can really run. He's in better shape. He wasn't in great shape when he got here, so he's in better shape now. And I just trust him, trust his reads, he had a problem with that when he was learning the defense, and now he's seemed to be very knowledgeable with what we're asking him to do, and he's always been talented to do it. It's just, had a little bit of learning curve there, like all young kids do.
Tom?
Hey, Sam, if I saw the stats right, you guys were 8 of 16 on third down conversions, both on offense and defense. I wonder what you thought of your conversion rate, and Cincinnati's were in spurts. Their first possession, and their first possession of the third quarter. What'd you think of those?
Well, we have to be better than that on defense and offense. 50% offensively is not that bad, depending on the the distance, but we certainly made some key third downs, and a lot of them were catches, that the receiver Trey had a really nice one. Warren Thompson had a really nice one. And of course, KJ, had some nice runs in there. I thought the offensive staff did a good job with their short yardage type game plan. We've got to be better on defense, getting off the field. But you're right, it was spurty, and even to the fact that I think they had 3 first downs in the first drive, and they converted them, before Nudie was able to pick the pass. So we certainly are aware of that. We're working on it. We'd like to be certainly lower than that, much lower than that, and a little higher. If you're in the 60s, you're clicking along really good on offense, and so we're striving to clean up the details of why we didn't make the first down, and that's really what we've been doing this entire week, of details of. And we do have good players, and we just got to clean the details up to be more successful.
We asked Shane Beamer about this on the SEC teleconference today. There's parallels between Arkansas and South Carolina came into the league the same year. They have relatively new coaches, both of them seemingly on the rise. I mean, do you kind of maybe see some parallels and coaches who are really passionate about the schools they're coaching at too? Do you see those kind of comparisons?
I do. When Shane got the job over there, I called him and obviously congratulated him, and it was a big deal for him. He was again, like I was. He was emotional when he went into the stadium. I remember watching that video of him, and it just meant something to him. I do think there's something to be said for that. You don't have to have the love like I do for Arkansas to have success here. I get that, but you go back to Kirby, and he played at Georgia, and so he's passionate about it, and I'm sure every coach that's coaching out there is passionate about their place. It's just easier when you're myself or Kirby or Shane, where they've been there and they understand how good the place can be, not necessarily what they inherited, but how good it can be. And instead of, laying around and woe is me, and I don't have a roster, I don't have this, I don't have that. Most of those coaches just go to work because they know what they can have if they go to work. And I think Shane's a lot like that as well, hopefully, as I am. And I know Kirby is as well, because I worked with him over there, and I know his love for the University of Georgia as well. So I think it's a big deal, and certainly is for me.
Quick question about Jaheim Bell. Their number 0. He's listed as a tight end. He had 7 or 8 carries the other day.
Yeah.
What do you think about that whole scheme, the way they utilize personnel?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, he plays everything. He takes tosses out of the backfield. I mean, obviously they've got a lot of trust in him, first of all, and he's earned that because of his athletic ability. He makes it a little bit of a nightmare because you don't know where he's going to line up, and really that puts you in a what personnel are they in type situation too, because they're using him at 3 different positions basically. And but we're going to have to know where he is and be physical whenever he gets the ball, because he's a hard guy to bring down.
Mason.
Yeah, Coach Beamer had talked about when he was at Georgia, the recruiting process of Drew Sanders. I don't know do you remember any of that, and maybe seeing him at camp when you were at Georgia there?
I wish I did. I'd lie to you if I said I remember any of that. I don't. You know, I would, as an offensive line coach, a lot of times I was in my own world recruiting, just offensive linemen. But I know that Glenn Schumann thought he was a great player. I do know that, and we wanted him at Georgia. Just unfortunately for us, when I was at Georgia, he went to Alabama. But I know that there was a lot of talk about him.
And then I know after the game, you talked about how you kind of liked what you saw from AJ Green and Rashad Dubinion. I mean, with Dominic maybe coming back, just what does that, carry situation look like in Quinn Rocket as well?
Well, I think it'll obviously, there's only so many plays you have out there. So it's going to affect all three of those guys because we believe in Dominic and I thought he was, if not our top running back, one of our top two last year. And he certainly was one of our top two. I can promise you that. And we're waiting to get him back. And I think it'll, those guys have certainly improved with AJ and R-Dub. But there's so many carries you can give away, and certainly we're going to give the carries to Dominique when he gets back. It's just how many I don't know. Probably a lot of it dictates how the game's going when he's in there.
Right. Yeah, Coach. Takias Crawford is on the participation report, but I don't know if he got any reps on offensive line. Is that something that you want to maybe in the future work him in, or was it, I know it was a close game, so it might have been hard to get him in.
Well, again, we have those meetings in the morning or at night. This week it'll be Friday night late because it's an early game. I don't want to have the staff meeting in the morning, but in that meeting we had said we were going to play him. I wanted to play him. Coach Kennedy wanted to play him. And then the game was so tight and we, at times we struggled and things of that nature. And we just didn't get him in. Now I know Coach Kennedy called him and talked to him because I believe he's a really, really good player. We'd like to get him in certainly against South Carolina because we believe in him. And I've been that way as an O-line coach too. I've told kids, hey, we're going to play you. And finally I just said, hey, third series, you're going in, sit on the bench, you're going in. And it kind of worked out a little bit better that way. But unfortunately, we had planned on playing him and we didn't. And we have had that conversation with him. But he's a good player and we need to play him.
And with Malik, I know you'd kind of changed maybe your thought process on that in fall camp with the other wide receivers really stepping up.
Yeah.
With the packages that we saw, is that about the number of reps we can expect in the future, or is that something you've maybe changed game to game?
Well, I think I'd like to amp it up just a little bit, maybe another 2 or 3, not drastic, Trey, but maybe another 2 or 3 plays, something new each week, kind of put something new out of that package. But I really like our wideouts where they're at right now. I do. I like Landers and Warren and certainly Hazelwood, and I like Keytron Jackson. Even with him, as good a player as he is, he didn't get the reps that we were hoping to get. But there's just not enough room to go around. Not enough plays right now, and so we have to be very conscious of that as well. And certainly at the quarterback spot, Fortin is playing really well. And so it allows us to do that a little bit more. But you have a problem of, do you want to take Matt Landers or Hazelwood or Warren Thompson off the field, And so if we did that, it'd be maybe 2 or 3 more plays a game, Trey, not a tremendous amount.
Thanks, Coach. Wrap us up, Bob.
Hey, Sam, it's not often you can bring a defensive back off the bench. You started, I think, 11 games the year before for the team that won the national championship. You were able to do that with Brini, and he may be playing a bigger role now. How do you think he played, and just how do you think he's fitting in, since I guess he didn't go through spring ball, he didn't get here until summer?
Well, I think if you asked Brini, he'd say, hey, I got to get better. Again, he's still trying to get all the defense in. in his mind and make sure that he's right, and so he can play fast. He has had a really good week this week. We're in great situation there if Cat or Slush can't play, and would be in a good situation with having Brainy. It was a big get for us, and I anticipate if he's the guy that he'll certainly play well. It's a big deal, Bob, because he's had that experience, over it in his career. So he's not going to be a fish out of water out there.
I can't remember the lineman's name, but I guess yesterday Shane Beer mentioned the first time he was aware of you were in North Carolina and signed some offensive lineman. I think he would have been at Virginia Tech, and it was like, how did North Carolina get that guy? And I guess that
Oh no, that was a defensive lineman. I think that's probably why he was. We signed Robert Quinn, who was a 17th pick, great guy and great player at North Carolina. Played forever. I don't know if he's still playing or not, but he played up to last year. I don't know if he's still on the roster, but he was a defensive end. And I'll be honest, I don't know how we got him either. I can give you a story if you want it.
Yeah, sure. Your stories are always good.
Well, we got to work that morning of signing day, 6 a.m. in the morning. And Coach Butch Davis said, "Have you talked to Quinn yet?" I said, "No, Coach, I talked to him last night and he still didn't know what he was going to do." And he said, "Well, call him." I said, "Well, Coach, it's 6 o'clock in the morning." He said, "Call him." And so I texted him and all those kind of things. And then his mother, and I text his mama, and his mother texts back, and she said, "You're going to be excited here in a little bit," and she kind of let the cat out of the bag, and then later on that day, Rob decided he was going to be a Tar Heel, and Rob had told, bless his heart, rest his soul, John Blake, because John Blake was a D-line coach at the time, and Blake had went in there because Alabama was recruiting him hard, and Blake said, "You're going to go to Alabama and their running back coach is recruiting you?" And Quinn looked right at me. He said, "Well, if I go to North Carolina, the whole line coach is recruiting me there." Blake had a huge ego. It crushed him, but anyway, we were fortunate enough to get Rob, and I think Shane was at South Carolina at the time, maybe. And Robert was from South Carolina. So I think that was the deal.
Is that something you guys talked about when you were at Georgia together? Like, man, how'd you get that guy from us or anything? Or
No. At that time, we were just we weren't very good. We went 7-5 that first year at Georgia, and we was just trying to hold on. We ended up winning the bowl and finished 8-5. And no, we were all just trying to save our jobs, but I really enjoyed Shane when I was there at Georgia with him.
Thanks, Sam. That's a good story.
All right, guys. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you Saturday, I guess.